At my 65th birthday party, I got a call from my grandson. He said, "Grandma, leave the house. Now." I listened. 5 minutes later, everyone else wished they had too. I'm Margaret Holloway, and at 65 years old, I thought the worst thing that could happen to me was losing my husband Frank 8 months ago. I was dead wrong. What I discovered living under my own roof, eating at my own table, sleeping in my own house, was far more dangerous than grief. So there I was, standing in my own kitchen, on what should have been the happiest day I'd had since Frank passed, listening to 53 people celebrate my 65th birthday on the back porch of the ranch house Frank and I built with our own 2 hands 42 years ago. The Montana sky was that perfect shade of blue you only get in late August, and my sister Betty had driven up from Billings with her famous chocolate cake. That's when my phone buzzed. "Grandma." Tyler's voice was tight, scared. My grandson never called me during family gatherings unless something was seriously wrong. "Where are you right now?" "I'm inside getting more napkins, honey." "Why? What's?" "Listen to me very carefully. Leave the house. Right now. Don't tell anyone where you're going. Just walk to the barn and wait for me there." My heart started hammering. Tyler was 16, Frank's spitting image and sharp as a tack. If he sounded scared, I paid attention. "Tyler, what's happening?" "Grandma, just trust me. Leave now." I hung up and started walking toward the barn, my mind racing back to how this whole mess had started 6 months ago. That's when Brooklyn moved in. Brooklyn, my daughter-in-law. 28 years old, widowed when my son Danny died in Afghanistan 3 years back. When the doctor diagnosed me with mild cognitive impairment, Brooklyn swooped in like some kind of angel. "Maggie, you can't live alone anymore," she'd said, already carrying her suitcase through my front door. "What if you fall? What if you forget to turn off the stove? I'm family. Let me help." At first, I was grateful. The house felt so empty without Frank. Having someone else's voice echoing through the halls seemed like a blessing. Then things started going missing. First it was small stuff. $20 from my purse. Frank's good drill set from the garage. My grandmother's pearl earrings that I'd worn to church every Sunday for 30 years. "Now, Maggie, you know your memory isn't what it used to be," Brooklyn would say when I mentioned it, using that patient tone people use with confused children. "You probably just put those earrings somewhere safe and forgot." But I hadn't forgotten. I knew exactly where I kept those earrings, and they weren't there. As I walked across the yard toward the barn, I could hear Brooklyn's voice carrying over the crowd on the back porch. She was talking to my nephew Dave and his wife Carol, gesturing dramatically with her wine glass. "It's just so heartbreaking," Brooklyn was saying. "Yesterday she accused me of stealing money again. The confusion is getting so much worse. I try to be patient, but sometimes..." She let her voice trail off, playing the long-suffering caregiver perfectly. Dave nodded sympathetically. "You're a saint for staying with her, Brooklyn. Mom was worried sick about Aunt Maggie living alone after Uncle Frank died." My chest burned. I hadn't accused her of stealing yesterday. I'd asked her if she'd seen my grocery money, and she'd immediately launched into how my episodes were becoming more frequent. But that was Brooklyn's genius. She didn't just steal from me. She made everyone else complicit in gaslighting me about it. What really got to me was how she talked about me to others like I wasn't even there. Just last week at the grocery store, she'd run into our neighbor Linda Kowalski. "Oh, it's such a blessing that I can be there for her," Brooklyn had said while I stood right beside her. "The poor thing gets so confused about money. Yesterday she insisted someone had stolen $40, but of course she'd just forgotten she'd already paid the electric bill. It's so sad watching her decline like this. Thank God I'm here to keep an eye on her." Linda had looked at me with such pity. "You're lucky to have Brooklyn, Margaret. Not everyone would sacrifice so much to care for family." Sacrifice. That was rich. Brooklyn lived rent-free in Frank's old office, ate my food, drove my truck, and had somehow convinced everyone she was doing me a favor. The barn smelled like hay and leather and 40 years of honest work. If Brooklyn only knew what I kept locked in that old filing cabinet in the corner. Some secrets were worth protecting. "Grandma." Tyler came running from the house, his face flushed and his dark hair sticking to his forehead. He looked over his shoulder twice before ducking into the barn, clutching a manila folder to his chest. "Tyler, honey, you're scaring me. What's going on?" He was breathing hard, his hands shaking as he opened the folder. I was looking for my phone charger in the kitchen and saw Brooklyn come out of her room with this. She left it on her bed when she went back outside. His voice cracked. "Grandma, she's trying to steal everything." The first document made my blood freeze. A power of attorney form with my name typed at the top, Brooklyn's name as the authorized agent. The signature line was blank, but there was a note paper clipped to it. Dr. Sinclair arriving 3 p.m. Saturday for evaluation. POA effective immediately upon competency determination. Saturday. Today. It was already 2:45. There's more, Tyler whispered, showing me a property assessment for the ranch. 4,700 acres valued at $2.3 million. Attached was a business card for Yellowstone Development Corp. With a handwritten note. Interested in immediate purchase, cash offer $1.8 million. My legs went weak. She's planning to sell the ranch. Grandma, she's been planning this for months. Look at these notes. He showed me a sheet of paper covered in Brooklyn's handwriting. According to Brooklyn's documentation, I showed increasing paranoia, memory loss, confusion about finances, and multiple accusations against family members with no basis. Every confused moment she'd reported to my family, every memory lapse she'd witnessed, it was all building toward this moment. She'd been constructing a case for my incompetency while systematically stealing everything Frank and I had worked for. The doctor is here to declare you crazy, Tyler said. But I found something else. He pulled out a business card. Coleman Investigations, Surveillance and Asset Recovery. This was in her purse. She's been having you watched. Through the barn window, I could see a silver sedan pulling up the driveway. Dr. Sinclair, arriving right on schedule for an ambush I never saw coming. But what Brooklyn didn't know was that some secrets were worth protecting. And I'd been protecting mine for a lot longer than she'd been planning her theft. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hold those documents. Brooklyn had been planning this theft for months. The power of attorney papers were already partially filled out, waiting only for a doctor's signature declaring me incompetent. Grandma, you're not crazy, Tyler said fiercely, grabbing my shoulders. You remember everything about the ranch, you balance the books, you can still outwork half the hands. She's been lying about you to everyone. Tyler's voice cracked with emotion. I've been documenting Brooklyn's behavior all summer. Her gambling, her stealing, her lies to family. I wrote it all down because I knew something was wrong. I looked down at this boy, Frank's grandson, with his grandfather's steel in his backbone, and felt something crack open in my chest. Tyler, honey, I thought I was losing my mind. Every time something went missing, every time I couldn't find my glasses or my keys, she'd give me that look. That patient, pitying look like I was some addled old woman. My voice got stronger as the pieces clicked together. She'd pat my hand and say, "Now Maggie, you know your memory isn't what it used to be." The dementia diagnosis gave her the perfect cover story. But something was shifting inside me. The vulnerability I'd felt for months was transforming into steely determination. 2 months ago, I said slowly, $5,000 went missing from my checking account. When I questioned Brooklyn about it, she sat me down like I was a child and explained how I must have withdrawn it and forgotten. She suggested I was having episodes, and maybe we should talk to Dr. Phillips about adjusting my medication. But you didn't forget, did you? Tyler asked. No, I sure as hell didn't forget $5,000. I could feel my spine straightening, feel that old ranch woman backbone kicking in. So I did something Brooklyn doesn't know about. I hired myself a private investigator. Tyler's eyes went wide. You what? Rex Coleman. Former FBI, specializes in financial crimes. I smiled for the first time in months. For 8 weeks now, he's been documenting every move Brooklyn makes. Casino visits 3 times a week. Meetings with loan sharks down in Billings. She even tried to get Jake Martinez to appraise our cattle without telling me. Holy shit, Grandma. Language Tyler. But yes, holy shit is right. I walked over to Frank's old workbench and pulled out a tablet from underneath a pile of feed catalogs. Your grandfather was paranoid about cattle thieves after we got hit 5 years back. So he installed security cameras throughout the house and barn. Little tiny things, looks like ranch monitoring equipment. Tyler leaned closer as I powered up the tablet. These cameras have been recording everything for 2 months. The screen flickered to life, showing a grid of camera feeds from around the house. I scrolled back to last Tuesday and hit play on the feed from my bedroom. There was Brooklyn, going through my jewelry box like she owned the place. She held up Frank's mother's pearl necklace, took a photo with her phone, then tucked it into her purse. Jesus, Tyler breathed. Here's a better one. I scrolled to a feed from the kitchen. Brooklyn sitting at my table, Frank's checkbook open in front of her. We watched her practice my signature on a scratch pad, then carefully forge my name on a check for $1,200. And this, I said, my voice getting harder, is my personal favorite. The feed showed Brooklyn on the phone in the living room, feet up on Frank's coffee table like she owned the place. Yeah, it's easier than I thought. Brooklyn's voice came through the tablet speaker. The old bat really is losing it, so when money goes missing, everyone just assumes she forgot about it. I've got her whole family convinced she's getting senile. She laughed, actually laughed, and took a swig from what looked like my good bourbon. The best part is she keeps asking me to help her remember things. So I just make up stories about how confused she's been. Pretty soon I'll have enough documentation to get power of attorney, and then this whole ranch becomes my problem to solve. Easy money from manipulating a senile old woman. Tyler's face had gone white with rage. That evil bitch. Through the barn window, I could see that silver sedan pulling up to the house. Dr. Sinclair, right on schedule for Brooklyn's ambush. We watched Brooklyn rush to greet the doctor like she was welcoming an old friend. They want to declare me incompetent? I said quietly, watching Brooklyn guide Dr. Sinclair toward the party crowd. Let them try. But I've got one card left to play that Brooklyn doesn't know about. What do you mean? Rex Coleman isn't just any private investigator, honey. He's former FBI, and he specializes in elder abuse cases. Every piece of evidence we've collected, the videos, the financial records, the documentation of her lies, it's all been compiled into a federal case file. Tyler stared at me. You're going to have her arrested. I'm going to have her prosecuted. The words tasted like justice. That's when I started crying. Not the confused, frightened tears I'd been shedding for months, but tears of pure rage. I loved that girl like my own daughter, I told Tyler. When your Uncle Danny died in Afghanistan, I promised him I'd take care of her. I opened my home, shared my table, treated her like family. I never imagined she'd repay that kindness by trying to steal everything your grandfather and I built with our own hands. Tyler hugged me tight. We're going to stop her, Grandma. Damn right we are. I wiped my eyes and squared my shoulders. Come on, honey. Time to go back to my party. We walked out of the barn together, and I could see Brooklyn scanning the crowd looking for me. The moment she spotted us, her face lit up with that fake concerned smile. Oh, Maggie, there you are, she called out, hurrying over with Dr. Sinclair in tow. Dr. Sinclair was hoping to chat with you. Nothing formal, just a friendly conversation about how you've been feeling lately. Dr. Sinclair looked uncomfortable, like she was beginning to realize she'd been manipulated into this situation. As we walked back, I leaned close to Tyler. What Brooklyn doesn't know is that I've been playing a role too. Every confused moment, every memory lapse she thinks she's witnessed, I've been documenting her reactions, seeing how far she'd go. Dr. Sinclair approached with Brooklyn hovering nearby like a vulture. Mrs. Holloway, I hope you don't mind, but your daughter-in-law expressed some concerns about your recent difficulties. Perhaps we could sit down for a few minutes. Behind the doctor, Brooklyn smiled triumphantly. She thought she'd won. But I caught Tyler's eye and nodded slightly. The real show was about to begin. Dr. Sinclair led me to a quiet table on the edge of the porch while the party continued around us. Brooklyn hovered nearby like a concerned daughter, occasionally interjecting with helpful examples of my supposed confusion. The family watched with concern, completely unaware they were witnessing a setup. Now, Mrs. Holloway, Dr. Sinclair began gently, your daughter-in-law has expressed some concerns about recent changes in your behavior. Can you tell me what year it is? Initially, I played along, appearing slightly confused and overwhelmed. I stumbled over the date, seemed uncertain about how much the ranch was worth, and looked to Brooklyn for help remembering things. Dr. Sinclair took notes, clearly forming an opinion about my mental state. Sometimes I get so mixed up, I said, letting my voice waver. Brooklyn has to remind me about everything now. Brooklyn jumped in eagerly. Yesterday she forgot she'd already paid the electric bill and accused me of hiding the money. It's getting worse every week. When Dr. Sinclair asked about the ranch's financial management, Brooklyn quickly volunteered. Oh, I help Maggie with all that now. She gets so confused with numbers. But my eyes sharpened. Actually, doctor, I'd like to show you something. I stood up with sudden clarity. I want to find some financial documents to prove I'm capable of managing my own affairs. Brooklyn relaxed visibly, thinking this would only demonstrate my disorganization. Maggie, honey, you don't need to. No, I insist. I led the group toward my study, Brooklyn trailing behind with growing unease. I know exactly where everything is. Inside my study, I walked directly to my locked filing cabinet and opened it with steady hands, pulling out a laptop computer. Brooklyn, you've been telling everyone I'm losing my memory, I said calmly. But I remember everything, including the day I installed security cameras throughout this house. I powered up the laptop and began playing footage. The first clip showed Brooklyn rifling through my desk, pocketing cash and checking account information. The color drained from Brooklyn's face. "Maggie, what is this? You never told me about cameras." Her mask began slipping as Dr. Sinclair watched with growing alarm. More clips played, Brooklyn forging my signature on checks, laughing on the phone about manipulating the senile old bat, selling ranch equipment to dealers in town. I revealed months of evidence systematically. Bank statements showing $30,000 in forged signatures. Photos of Brooklyn at the Silver Dollar Casino, using my stolen money. Phone recordings of her discussing plans to have me declared incompetent. Most damaging were Brooklyn's own text messages to friends bragging about her inheritance scheme. "This is entrapment." Brooklyn's entitled mask fully dropped, revealing the calculating manipulator underneath. "You can't record people without permission. Besides, you are losing it. The diagnosis proves it." She turned to Dr. Sinclair desperately. "She's paranoid, installing cameras to spy on family." Dr. Sinclair closed her notepad. "Mrs. Holloway, this level of strategic planning and evidence collection demonstrates exceptional cognitive function. In fact, it shows remarkable foresight and organizational skills. There's nothing in your behavior today suggesting cognitive impairment. I won't be recommending any competency evaluation." Tyler had been quietly alerting family members. One by one, cousins, uncles, and neighbors filtered into the study. They watched in stunned silence as more footage played, Brooklyn mocking me to strangers, calling my family backwards ranch people, bragging about her inheritance plan to gambling buddies. "I thought I was going crazy," I said, my voice breaking. "Every time something went missing, you made me doubt myself. You used my grief, my fear of losing my memory, to steal from me. But worst of all, you made my family think I was becoming incompetent." At that perfect moment, Rex Coleman arrived, having been summoned by Tyler. He introduced himself as a former FBI agent and presented Brooklyn with a thick folder. "Mrs. Holloway, we have enough evidence for federal elder abuse charges. The forged signatures alone carry a 10-year sentence." Faced with undeniable evidence and professional consequences, Brooklyn exploded. "You stupid old woman," she screamed. "I should be set for life after what I've been through. My husband died for this country, and this is what I get? Stuck babysitting some senile rancher." Her true contempt poured out in front of the entire family. The mask was completely off now. My sister-in-law Patricia stepped forward, her face white with shock. "Brooklyn, we trusted you. We believed you when you said Maggie was struggling." Other family members began expressing their horror and betrayal. The woman they'd pitted and supported had been systematically abusing their beloved matriarch. "There's one more thing," I said quietly. I produced a final document from the filing cabinet, a forged will that Brooklyn had been working on, attempting to make herself the primary beneficiary of my entire estate. "You were planning to inherit everything after having me declared incompetent. But I found this in your room 3 weeks ago." Brooklyn's face went ashen as she realized the scope of what I'd discovered. Rex Coleman pulled out handcuffs. "Brooklyn Holloway, you're under arrest for elder abuse, fraud, and forgery." As the reality hit her, Brooklyn made one final desperate move. She lunged for me, screaming accusations. "She's the crazy one. She's been spying on me. This is all fake." But Tyler and 2 ranch hands stepped between us. Jake Rodriguez, our foreman, grabbed Brooklyn's arms while she thrashed and screamed. "You'll never prove anything. I was helping her. She needed me." The 53 party guests watched in complete shock as their helpful daughter-in-law was led away in handcuffs, still screaming about how unfair it all was. Dr. Sinclair shook her head in amazement. "Mrs. Holloway, I've never seen such a comprehensive case of elder abuse documentation. Your cognitive abilities are clearly intact. In fact, you've just demonstrated investigative skills that would impress law enforcement." It was over. The trap she'd spent months setting had snapped shut on her instead. The woman who'd tried to steal my life, my home, and my sanity was finally facing justice. And I was still standing on my own land, surrounded by family who finally saw the truth. The arrest scene was chaos. Brooklyn fought against Rex Coleman as he restrained her, her entitled mask completely shattered. "This is insane. She's the one who's crazy. Check her medical records." "I've already called the sheriff's department," Rex announced, keeping a firm grip on Brooklyn's arm. "They're en route to make the formal arrest." As if on cue, we heard sirens approaching. 2 sheriff's cruisers pulled up the driveway, red and blue lights flashing across the ranch. Sheriff Martinez and Deputy Collins stepped out, looking grim. "Mrs. Holloway," Sheriff Martinez nodded respectfully. "Mr. Coleman briefed us on the situation. We have warrants for Brooklyn Holloway's arrest on charges of elder abuse, fraud, and forgery." Brooklyn's protests grew more desperate as the handcuffs clicked into place. "This is entrapment. You can't prove anything. She's been spying on me." But her explosive outburst had shown everyone her true character, and the evidence was overwhelming. As Brooklyn was led away in the back of the sheriff's cruiser, family members approached me with shame and apologies. "We should have listened to you, Maggie. We should have questioned her story." My nephew Dave hung his head. "She convinced us you were getting paranoid, installing cameras and hiding money. We thought we were protecting you by not arguing when you got confused." Tyler stood tall beside me. "I never believed it," he announced to the crowd. "Grandma taught me to ride, to work cattle, to balance books. She remembers every story about Grandpa, every detail about this ranch. Anyone who spent real time with her would know she's sharp as ever." Dr. Sinclair approached me with professional embarrassment. "Mrs. Holloway, Brooklyn contacted me weeks ago, painting a picture of severe cognitive decline. She provided specific examples of confusion and memory loss that I now realize were completely fabricated. I owe you an apology. You were manipulated by someone who understood exactly how to exploit medical terminology." Standing before my assembled family and neighbors, I finally spoke my truth. "I've spent 6 months questioning my own mind, wondering if I was losing the sharp edge that helped me build this ranch alongside Frank. Brooklyn used my grief and my natural worry about aging to make me doubt everything I knew about myself." Rex provided the complete accounting of Brooklyn's theft. Over 6 months, she'd stolen $47,000 in cash and checks, sold $23,000 worth of ranch equipment, and accumulated $85,000 in gambling debts using my credit cards. The federal prosecutor will seek full restitution plus damages. Family members who had been helping Brooklyn realized they'd been manipulated too. My daughter-in-law Patricia admitted, "She told me you were getting confused about money, so when you called asking about missing funds, I assumed it was memory issues. She made us all complicit in gaslighting you." Jake Rodriguez, our foreman, stepped forward. "Mrs. Holloway, we knew something was wrong. That woman treated you like hired help in your own home. But she told everyone you were having episodes and we shouldn't contradict you. We should have spoken up sooner." Dr. Sinclair provided an impromptu assessment for the family. "Mrs. Holloway demonstrates exceptional organizational skills, strategic thinking, and emotional resilience. Her ability to plan and execute this investigation while being systematically gaslighted shows remarkable mental strength. There's no cognitive impairment here." Tyler revealed his final surprise. He'd been live streaming parts of the confrontation on social media. Brooklyn's meltdown, her cruel comments about me and the family, and her arrest had been viewed by hundreds of people in our rural community. Everyone needs to know what she really thought of all of us. As if summoned by fate, 2 men in cheap suits arrived looking for Brooklyn, only to watch the sheriff's cruiser disappearing down the road. Rex explained they were debt collectors for her gambling losses. They were expecting payment from the ranch sale. Instead, they'll be filing claims in her bankruptcy proceedings. Brooklyn's financial house of cards had collapsed completely. Alone with Tyler after the crowd dispersed, I finally allowed myself to feel the full impact. "I thought I was losing my mind, honey. Every morning I'd wake up wondering what I'd forgotten, what I'd misplaced. She stole more than money. She stole my confidence in myself." Tyler's wisdom surprised me. "Grandma, you outsmarted a con artist while she thought you were senile. You built a federal case while pretending to be confused. You're the strongest person I know." I made an announcement to the remaining family. The ranch would stay in the family, managed through a trust that protects it from future exploitation. Tyler would inherit his grandfather's legacy, trained by a grandmother who'd proved she was far from incompetent. News spread quickly through our rural community. Brooklyn, who'd looked down on backwards ranch people, became the subject of gossip and shame. Her gambling buddies distanced themselves, her support network evaporated, and her reputation was destroyed. 6 months later, I received a letter from federal prison. Brooklyn, facing multiple felony charges, had pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence. She'd serve 3 years and pay full restitution. I framed the letter next to a photo from my 65th birthday party. The moment Tyler's phone call saved not just my ranch, but my sense of self. The story ended with me in my study, reviewing ranch accounts with perfect clarity. Tyler worked alongside me, learning the business that would someday be his. On the wall hung a certificate from the FBI thanking me for my cooperation in an elder abuse investigation. The security cameras still rolled, but now they protected a home where truth was valued above all else. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well. Sometimes it's proving that you're not the helpless victim someone tried to make you believe you were. Brooklyn had made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated what a Holloway woman could do when cornered. And that mistake had cost her everything.